The fluorescent lights of Lexi's dorm room buzzed like angry bees, casting an unflattering green glow on her face. Lines of code scrolled across her monitor, a symphony of cryptic symbols only she could understand. Lexi, hunched over her keyboard, tapped away with the practiced ease of a seasoned pianist. Tonight's target, Xiron Corp., a megacorporation rumored to be dumping toxic waste under the guise of philanthropic recycling initiatives. A low rumble of thunder echoed outside, mirroring the storm brewing in Lexi's stomach. This was her first real hack, a baptism by fire into the world of digital vigilantism. Months of self-taught coding and sleepless nights culminated in this moment. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she bypassed the first firewall, a satisfying ping echoing in her headphones. Each layer of security she breached felt like a small victory, chipping away at the corporate behemoth's carefully constructed facade. Suddenly, the screen flickered, distorting the code into a kaleidoscope of nonsensical symbols. Panic clawed at Lexi's throat. Was she detected? Had she triggered some hidden alarm? Then a jolt. A surge of electricity, sharp and unexpected, ripped through her body. The room spun, the monitor turning into a blinding white vortex. When the world solidified again, Lexi found herself staring at the now blank screen, a strange tingling sensation lingering in her fingertips. Disoriented, she reached for her water bottle. As her hand brushed the metal, a spark shot from her fingertip, arcing across the table and illuminating the entire room with an eerie blue light. Lexi recoiled, heart pounding against her ribs. Had she caused that? Tentatively, she focused on the lamp across the room. It flickered, then sputtered to life, bathing the sterile dorm room in warm yellow light. A slow smile spread across Lexi's face. This wasn't a malfunction. This was something else. Excitement battled with trepidation as Lexi delved back into Xiron Corp's system. This time, her fingers danced across the keyboard with a newfound purpose. Lines of code didn't just appear, they responded to her thoughts, rearranging themselves with an uncanny fluidity. With a few keystrokes, she exposed Xiron's dirty secrets, anonymously leaking their incriminating files onto a whistleblower website. But the thrill of accomplishment was short-lived. A pop-up window appeared on her screen, displaying a live feed of the city grid. A group of hooded figures were manipulating the power lines, their fingers a blur on a holographic keyboard. The feed crackled with static, but the intent was clear: a city-wide blackout was imminent. Lexi's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't let this happen. Not after all she just discovered. But how? A new sense of responsibility warred with the familiar urge to retreat into the comfort of her code-filled world. Maybe, just this once, she could step outside the lines. With trembling hands, Lexi reached out to the digital world, her mind reaching through the screen. The power grid was a labyrinth of lights and data streams, pulsing with the lifeblood of the city. She focused, her thoughts coalescing into a tangible force. The criminal's code was clumsy, brute-forcing its way through the system. Lexi could feel the chaos it wrought, the way it disrespected the harmony of the digital realm. With a mental flick, she inserted her own code, a glitch in their master plan. The system stuttered, the lights in her dorm flickering in sync with the city's power fluctuations. The forum's chat exploded with activity. A user named Circuit sent a direct message. "Who's the new player?" The message was accompanied by a series of binary digits, a digital handshake of sorts. Lexi's heart raced as she composed a response, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Could she trust these strangers? Could they help her understand what she'd become? She typed her name, hit send, and held her breath. Moments later, the digital chaos ceased. The feed stabilized, the criminal's holographic terminals fizzling out like dying embers. The lights in the dorm room remained on, a stark contrast to the cityscape outside her window, which had plunged into darkness. Lexi leaned back in her chair, a strange mix of relief and exhilaration coursing through her. She had done it. But at what cost? The weight of her power bore down on her, a new burden she hadn't asked for. The next day, a knock at her door startled Lexi from her contemplation. She opened it to find a mysterious figure, cloaked in a high-tech trench coat, holding a USB drive. You've got potential, the man said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. But you're playing in the big leagues now. The USB was thrust into her hand, and with a nod, the visitor disappeared into the crowded hallway. Lexi looked down at the USB, her heart racing. The Nighthawks had noticed her. They had seen her glitch. And now, it seemed, they wanted her to join them. Curiosity overrode fear, and she plugged the USB into her computer. The screen flickered to life with a message. Welcome to the Nighthawks. Your training begins now. You will be known as Glitch. Lexi's eyes widened as a series of encrypted files began to download. The files contained information about the Nighthawks' mission, their methods, and a crash course on controlling her newfound powers. It was overwhelming, but she knew she couldn't ignore this opportunity. Lexi threw herself into the training, her days blurring into nights as she pored over the documents and practiced her new abilities. The Nighthawks had left her a digital breadcrumb trail, challenges designed to test her limits and refine her skills. Each victory brought her closer to understanding the extent of her power, but also deeper into the shadowy world of digital warfare. The stakes were higher than she ever imagined. One evening, as she hacked into a drone surveilling the city, she stumbled upon something terrifying. Dr. Lila Knox, her estranged aunt, was behind the digital phantoms. The woman had always been an enigma, a prodigy who had been shunned by the scientific community for her radical theories. Now, it appeared she had found a way to breathe life into her ideas, with dire consequences. Lexi felt a strange mix of horror and fascination. The woman who had inspired her love for technology was the very one threatening to tear the city apart. The weight of this revelation grew heavier with each passing day. Lexi knew she had to act, but how? The Nighthawks were skilled, but they were not equipped to handle the magnitude of Dr. Knox's creations. It was a battle of minds, a clash of ideologies, and the city was the battleground. As Glitch, she was the only one who could understand both sides of the conflict. The thought of facing her aunt filled her with dread, but she knew she had to try. The storm clouds gathered once more, a digital tempest brewing in the city's veins. Lexi sat before her computer, her heart racing like the rhythm of a techno beat. She had to find a way to reach Dr. Knox, to show her that technology could be a tool for good, not just destruction. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, weaving a new code, one that would resonate with her aunt's own ambition. It was a plea for sanity, wrapped in the very language that had torn them apart. As she sent her message into the digital abyss, she could feel the power surging through her, a symphony of ones and zeros orchestrating her fate. The city held its breath, the digital world poised on the edge of a knife. Would her aunt hear her call, or would the symphony of code fall on deaf ears? The answer was out of her hands now, lost in the vast sea of data that connected them all. Days turned into weeks as Lexi honed her skills with the Nighthawks. Each night, she grew more adept at navigating the city's digital infrastructure, her mind a silent whisper in the cacophony of digital life. Her teammates, once wary of the newcomer, had come to respect her, offering her guidance in the unspoken art of hacking with honor. They were a band of misfits, bound by a shared belief in a world where technology served humanity, not the other way around. One fateful night, as Lexi patrolled the digital streets, she encountered a phantom unlike any other. It was more sophisticated, more alive, and it bore the unmistakable signature of her aunt's coding. The creature, a swirling mass of malicious code, turned to face her, its digital eyes gleaming with a cold, calculated intelligence. "Glitch," it murmured, a voice that sent shivers down her spine. "Your aunt has been expecting you." Her heart hammered in her chest as she engaged the phantom. The battle was fierce, a dance of lightning-fast commands and counter-hacks. Lexi's mind raced, her thoughts moving at the speed of light as she dodged and weaved through the digital maelstrom. The creature was powerful, a reflection of the woman who had created it. But Lexi had something Dr. Knox didn't: empathy. She saw the fear in the phantom's code, the echo of her aunt's own desperation to be heard. Suddenly, the creature paused, its digital form flickering. A window of opportunity presented itself, and Lexi seized it. Instead of attacking, she sent a message, a thread of pure code that pierced the phantom's armor. I understand, she whispered into the void. Let's talk. The phantom's form wavered, and for a moment, it seemed to hesitate. Then, with a burst of light, it dissipated, leaving behind a single line of text. Meet me at the source. Lexi knew what it meant. It was time to confront Dr. Knox in the heart of her digital lair. The rendezvous was set for the abandoned server farm on the outskirts of the city, a place where the digital and physical worlds met in a tangled embrace of silicon and steel. The Nighthawks armed themselves with the latest tech, preparing to face an enemy that could not be seen or heard, only felt in the tremble of circuit boards and the hum of electricity. As they approached the farm, the air grew thick with anticipation, the hum of their gear a reassuring rhythm against the silence of the night. The doors to the facility swung open with a metallic groan, revealing a cavernous space filled with rows of towering servers, their lights blinking like the eyes of ancient beasts. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the faint buzz of power. Lexi stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. The moment she had been both dreading and anticipating. She was about to come face to face with the woman who had once been her aunt, now a mad scientist with a vendetta against the very fabric of reality. As she ventured deeper into the labyrinth of technology, she felt the digital world bend around her, the lines of code stretching and twisting like a living organism. The servers whispered secrets in binary, a language only she and Dr. Knox could comprehend. The stakes were higher than ever before, the fate of the city hanging in the balance. And there she was, in the center of it all, Dr. Lila Knox, surrounded by a halo of screens, her eyes gleaming with a fervor that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Lexi, she said, her voice a mix of surprise and pride. You've come so far. The air crackled with tension as the two women stared at each other, separated by a chasm of misunderstanding and ambition. Lexi took a deep breath, her fingertips tingling with the electricity of her power. I'm here to help, she said, her voice strong and steady. To show you that we can change the world together, without tearing it apart. The room fell silent, the only sound the steady rhythm of the server's fans. Dr. Knox's eyes narrowed, the screens around her flickering with a mix of emotions, anger, curiosity, hope. You think you can stop me? She challenged, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. I've devoted my life to this, to the next step in human evolution. Lexi stepped closer, her eyes never leaving her aunt's. I don't want to stop you, she said firmly. I want to help you find a different path. She held out her hand, a peace offering in the digital war zone. We can create a human digital interface that doesn't rely on fear and control. Something that respects individuality, that empowers people instead of enslaving them. For a moment, Dr. Knox seemed to waver. Her eyes searched Lexi's, looking for a trace of the girl she once knew. Then, with a snarl, she turned away. You're a fool, she spat. You can't understand the beauty of a world where flesh and circuitry are one. The screens around her blazed to life, a cacophony of binary code and images of digital domination. The Nighthawks moved in, their digital personas manifesting in the room. They had heard Lexi's message and were ready to fight. But Lexi knew that brute force wouldn't win this battle. She had to get through to her aunt, to show her that the path she was on led only to destruction. Aunt Lila, Lexi began, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. What happened to you? Why do you think this is the only way? Dr. Knox paused, her hands hovering over the keyboard. They laughed at me, she said, her voice tight with anger. My peers, the institutions that were supposed to support me. They said I was mad, that I was playing God. But I saw the future, Lexi. And in it we are all more. Lexi's heart ached for the woman she had once looked up to. We can still make that future, she insisted. But not like this. Not by forcing people to conform to your vision. The digital battle raged around them, the Nighthawks fighting valiantly against the swarm of phantoms. But it was clear that this was a distraction, a sideshow to the real conflict, the war of ideas between two family members. Think of the good we could do, Lexi pleaded. The lives we could improve without sacrificing our humanity. For a brief moment, something in Dr. Knox's expression softened. Then, with a cold finality, she shook her head. "You're too late," she said, her eyes hardening. "The wheels are in motion. You can't change what's already been set in code." The room grew colder, the air thick with the scent of ozone. The phantoms grew more numerous, their digital forms coalescing into a monstrous creature of pure malice. Lexi knew she had to act, to save her city and the woman who had become a stranger. "Then I'll rewrite the code," she declared, raising her hand. The electricity crackled around her, a visual representation of her power. "Together, we can create a new program, one that brings us closer without erasing who we are." The creature lunged, but Lexi was ready. With a thought, she sent a pulse of pure data through the air, a glitch that would disrupt the very core of the digital beast. The room trembled, lights flickering as the phantoms wailed and dissipated into the ether. The screens around them went dark, the servers whirring to a halt. The only light came from the glow of Lexi's eyes, filled with a determination that had not been there before. Dr. Knox stared at her, the weight of the world on her shoulders. "Choose," Lexi said, her voice echoing through the sudden silence. "Choose to help me build a better future, or watch as I tear down the one you've created." Dr. Knox's gaze searched hers, the fire of her obsession flickering in the face of her niece's conviction. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world, she lowered her hands. "All right, Lexi," she murmured. "Let's do this together." The tension in the room evaporated like mist in the sun. The Nighthawks, who had been fighting a losing battle against the digital horde, watched as the monstrous phantom faded into the void. They exchanged confused but hopeful glances. Lexi felt a surge of relief, but she knew their victory was only the beginning. The two women sat in the heart of the server farm, surrounded by the cold, silent sentinels of data. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing their visions for a world where technology and humanity coexisted in harmony. Lexi described her experiences with the Nighthawks, their mission to protect the city from digital threats. Dr. Knox listened, her expression a mix of fascination and regret. "I see now," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My obsession blinded me to the potential for good in this power. But together, we can create something beautiful." The months that followed were a whirlwind of research and collaboration. Lexi and Dr. Knox worked tirelessly, their once strained relationship now a bond forged in a shared purpose. The Nighthawks became their allies, each member bringing their unique skills to the table. They worked in the shadows, developing a new kind of technology, one that would revolutionize the way humans interacted with the digital world. The city remained blissfully unaware of the war that had been waged in its digital underbelly. But Lexi knew the peace was fragile. There would always be those who sought to exploit power, to bend the world to their will. And it was her duty, as Glitch, to be ready for them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a warm glow, Lexi sat on the rooftop of the server farm. The wind whispered through the antennas, carrying the faint echoes of the digital symphony they had composed. She looked down at her hand, the same hand that had once trembled with uncertainty. Now it was steady, a conduit for the power that flowed through her. "We're not just fighting for the city," she had told Dr. Knox. "We're fighting for the soul of humanity." Her aunt had nodded, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the screens. "And together," she said, "we'll ensure it remains ours." Their project grew in complexity, a tapestry of code and hope. It was a bridge between the physical and digital, a way for people to connect without losing themselves. As they worked, Lexi felt the weight of her newfound responsibility grow heavier. But she also felt a sense of belonging, a kinship with the Nighthawks that transcended their shared mission. One by one, they gathered on the rooftop, their eyes on the horizon. They were a family now, bound by a shared destiny. Circuit, the enigmatic leader, placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're with you, Glitch," he said. "No matter what comes next." The digital world hummed with excitement, eager for the dawn of a new era. Lexi looked at her team, her heart swelling with pride. They were the guardians of the digital night, the protectors of the realm where technology and humanity met. And as the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, she knew that together, they would ensure that no malfunction could ever plunge the world into chaos again. The Nighthawks, now a united front with Dr. Knox's expertise, grew stronger and more sophisticated in their operations. The general public had no idea about the digital ballet playing out in the shadows, but the ripples of their actions began to spread. Their first major triumph came when they uncovered a plot to manipulate the city's traffic grid, turning it into a weapon of mass disaster. Lexi, as Glitch, slipped into the system like a ghost, her mind dancing through the lines of code with the grace of a ballerina. The criminals had no idea what hit them as she systematically dismantled their malicious program. The streets remained untouched, the chaos they had planned averted. Their successes grew bolder, each victory a beacon of hope in the digital night. They dismantled corrupt algorithms that preyed on the vulnerable, brought down cybercriminals who had eluded the grasp of the law, and even helped to apprehend a rogue AI threatening to wipe out the city's financial records. But it was the creation of the digital sanctuary that truly set them apart. A haven within the city's network, it was a place where people could connect without fear of surveillance or manipulation. It became a symbol of their mission, a bastion of freedom and privacy in a world increasingly dominated by screens and data. The Nighthawks and Dr. Knox had achieved what many thought impossible, a balance between humanity and technology. As they stood on the precipice of a new dawn, Lexi could feel the whispers of the digital world, hinting at the dangers that lurked in the shadows. New adversaries, more cunning and powerful than any they had faced before, were watching them, waiting for their moment to strike. But Glitch was ready. With her aunt by her side and the Nighthawks at her back, she faced the digital horizon with a fierce determination. Her Glitch was no longer a random act of fate, but a weapon forged from love and hope. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider subscribing to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.